The Somme. Even the name evokes a chill, a whisper of the horrors of the First World War. July 1st, 1916, a date etched in infamy. The day hope died on a battlefield of mud and blood. The Somme was supposed to be the Allies' breakthrough, a decisive blow to end the stalemate on the Western Front. Instead, it became a symbol of the war's brutal futility. Over 1 million casualties, a generation scarred, a continent forever changed. The Somme was more than a battle. It was a crucible, a test of human endurance in the face of unimaginable suffering. This is the story of that test, a story of courage and sacrifice, a story of loss and disillusionment, a story that must never be forgotten. Imagine the trenches, a labyrinth of mud, blood and fear, the air thick with the stench of death. Rats scurried through the muck. Lice crawled on exhausted bodies. The deafening roar of artillery never ceased. Soldiers huddled in their dugouts, damp, cramped and infested. They were young men, many barely old enough to shave. They came from farms and factories, cities and villages, now united by fear and duty. British soldier days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The waiting was the worst, the anticipation of the next attack, the knowledge that death could come at any moment. And then the whistles would blow. The Battle of the Somme raged for 141 agonizing days, a brutal back and forth, attack and counterattack, neither side willing to yield. The British Army, inexperienced but determined. The French, veterans of years of trench warfare. They faced the might of the German army. A formidable foe, deeply entrenched. The British relied heavily on artillery. Their guns pounded the German lines, a deafening symphony of destruction. French soldier. But the bombardment was a double-edged sword. It created a lunar landscape, a treacherous wasteland of craters and mud, difficult to attack through, even harder to defend. German soldier. New technologies emerged. Tanks, flamethrowers, poison gas, each more terrifying than the last. These weapons of war promised victory. Instead, they delivered only death on an unprecedented scale. The fog of war. The first day of the Somme, a day that will live in infamy. The British suffered nearly 60,000 casualties, the bloodiest day in British military history. The German defences held, the attackers mowed down by machine guns, their bodies entangled in the barbed wire.
One soldier, a young British officer, wrote in his diary, "The dead were everywhere. We were wading in blood." His words capture the horror of that day, the sheer scale of the carnage, the utter waste of human life.
Yet the battle raged on. Week after agonizing week, small victories were won and lost. Each meter of ground gained came at an unbearable price. The stories of individual bravery are countless, acts of heroism amidst the madness. But the overall picture remained bleak.
The price of glory. As the summer of 1916 bled into autumn, the battle reached a brutal stalemate. The rains came, turning the battlefield into a quagmire. Men drowned in the mud, their bodies swallowed by the earth. The offensive finally ground to a halt in November. The cost of the Somme was staggering, over 1 million casualties, British, French and German. A generation decimated, families shattered, nations scarred.
The physical wounds would heal, but the psychological scars ran deep.
The Battle of the Somme achieved none of its strategic objectives. The stalemate on the Western Front continued. But the Somme had a profound impact on the course of the war. It exposed the limitations of traditional military tactics in the face of industrialized warfare. An echo through time. The Battle of the Somme serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of war, a cautionary tale of the horrors that unfold when nations resort to violence. It is a story that must be told and retold. We must remember the sacrifice of those who fought and died in the trenches. We must honor their memory by striving for a more peaceful world. The Somme was a tragedy, but it can also be a lesson. Let us learn from the mistakes of the past. Let us work together to build a future where such horrors are never repeated. The Somme is more than just a battle. It is a symbol of the folly of war and a reminder of our shared humanity.